Hey, howdy, hey, y'all. Welcome back to my channel, Roller Coaster of Storms, because I have BPD, CPTSD, amongst a whole other anxiety of issues. But I'm here to take accountability, I'm here to take responsibility, and I'm here to get my truth out so I can actually heal and grow and find value and satisfaction. I want to find value in myself and hopefully be satisfied one day. But being Wednesday, that it is, and actually a really nice day out, as you can see. I don't have to use my little light, but as you can also see, it's going to reflect in my glasses, so I apologize for the annoyance. Yesterday I did a live because I missed my therapy appointment for miscommunication of time. So I went ahead and pulled a card yesterday just to kind of help me. So I was getting some bad news. For those that don't know, I have now officially totaled my Mushu, my car, my Volkswagen GTI. Yeah, he's totaled. I don't know that a road sign could do all the damage that it did. But it was the day that was all the snow and the ice and definitely slid off the road into a ditch. And now they cannot repair him, which makes me very sad. Makes me feel empty, makes me feel like I let my car down because I assign human emotions to inanimate objects. It's hard because it was my safety. I would jam out and just drive and listen to music and I don't know, do things like go to Amsterdam and hang out with my best friend. And I like driving to therapy, so I don't mind when my therapy's a good 30 to an hour's drive because it gives me time to reflect. It gives me time to think. It gives me time to calm myself. It gives me time to get ready for the next thing I need to do. It's really, I know it sounds exhausting for other people. It really helps comfort me. So to lose that safe spot, even though I can get another car and have the same thing, I got this car at a very important time in my life when I was just learning about my BPD. I was going through lots of therapy appointments. So I was always in the car. It saved me one time because I had just left a doctor's appointment and the doctor told me that the fibromyalgia was all in my head and that there was nothing I could do about it and that I needed to see a therapist, which no shit, I've been seeing therapists. What do you think referenced me to come here? And I just snapped that day. I broke in my head because of how many times I've been told it's in my head, that they don't just see anything, that just let it be. You're supposed to have things like this. It was awful. And I remember driving home, this was in Germany, and talking to my husband, and slowly but surely I was just losing my grip on myself and my rationality. And thankfully he was able to notice that in my voice and tone and demeanor. And I think I probably hung up the phone and didn't answer. So when I didn't answer, obviously that's pretty frightening. But I made it to the house and I just sat in the car. I don't know if I just became drained or deep down I knew if I went inside that house, I was going to take whatever and everything I could get my hands on. So being in the comfort of Mushu while music was going, even though I was no longer thinking rationally, probably helped. I also have bad memories in the car, but we like to focus on the good stuff here. Get your trauma out, get your stuff out, and then work on remembering the good things and healing from that. Needless to say, today I go grab everything out of my car that I've had since 2018. All my decals I'm going to miss. especially the Fuck Fascist Florida one. I don't know. That car was an extension of myself. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but it sucks to lose my car. So I did a card yesterday. It was the self-soothing skills, which is actually what I needed after receiving the bad news. I did not pull a BPD card because I wanted a skill, and not everyone has BPD, but everyone can use the DBT skills. So today I'll start off with a BPD card, and then we'll go back to a DBT. Sorry, my house closed again. Before I had to get dressed and go run errands all day today and appointments. Get to be comfy. I also want to pull out, depending on what the cards are, I want to pull out a workbook and have some maybe more thought-provoking questions in the workbook. So why are these backwards? Okay. So DBT card or BPD card we're going to pull out. Ooh, it says unstable self-image. Fuck. Stop splitting who you are. Splitting is seeing things, including yourself, as all good or all bad. This perpetuates your BPD, but it's time to repeal it. Challenge your split thinking with something gray. Replace always, never, and forever with maybe, sometimes, and could be. So I've said it kind of before about splitting is thinking everything is black and white, that there's just two columns and you're either going to fit in black and white, good or bad, right or wrong, up and down, red or green. There is no middle for us. And I could tell that growing up as I had gotten older that I was living in a this or that, especially with the environment I was growing up in and being taught lessons, and these lessons kind of reinforcing that this or that personality trait. So, and this happens on anybody, to anybody, on anything. It could be a book. It could be a political statement. It could be a person. It could be an animal, a tree. Like, it's amazing the things that we can split on and assign it to some degree of being all one way or all another way and not seeing the middle ground. And I would do that mostly with my animals when I was BPDing, or with those closest to me. I split usually on those really close to me. And it's like saying, and I'm sure you hear it in arguments, especially on TV, but it's like saying you get into an argument with someone who has been really good to you, and then once you get that argument that triggers something inside of you, it doesn't have to be anything you agree with, but it just hits the right trigger inside of you. Now, everything that person could have, would have, should have done gets brought up. And you look at their faults, you look at everything that's ever made you mad, and you start assigning them into this category and think, well, they can't change that, especially when you're heightened. I've had my husband have to tell me that, you can't say this about your best friend because she has done A, B, C, and D. You have to remember these things. Yes, you're upset right now and you're allowed to be upset, but that person isn't forever good or forever bad just because you're upset or you guys got into an argument, which happens. It happens to everybody. And it's really hard for the BPD inside of me not just go, screw it, and cut everybody off, which it kind of looks like that's what I'm doing now, but I'm actually doing it for healthy reasons and can stand by my reasons, and talked it up for my therapist. So like I have constantly used the checking myself. Is this BPD or is this actually Stormy finally setting her boundaries in the right ways? Is this Stormy making sure that she doesn't act on emotion, which is really hard to do with BPD. Roxy, what are you doing, baby? So stop splitting who we are is really hard to do for ourselves, though, because, well, we know ourselves the best, right? So, of course, why wouldn't we be this or that? We would know. Nobody else is going to tell me any different. So, to be able to, I would say things in the mirror to myself about how I'm always an idiot. I'll never get this. I will never look this way. I will never be this way. You know, I will forever be this fuck up that won't learn anything. Like, I have literally said these words to myself in the mirror or screaming at myself while rocking in place during an episode because I have such little worth or value in myself. So I can't even find the great. I have such a negative view of myself that it's hard to even split. It's hard to even say, well, here's the good things and here's the bad things. I just see bad, 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 bad. And so what I have to do is first counteract bad, 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 bad with some good on this side. And then if I feel like I'm getting into two choices, I find the middle ground of the gray area where both options can meet in the middle to show me that there is more to life than what's black and white, what's the rules, what's the laws. Like, there's so much gray area in life that it is circumstantial. And we don't want to believe that because we want to believe everyone's going to follow the same set of rules and ideals and everything else. But we don't. We're all individuals. We all have our own ways of thinking. We all have our own ways of responding to things. And that's our right as human beings, is to not have to fit in anybody else's view of them. So I will, I don't want to, but I'm going to try to find something in the workbook about self-image. It's obviously something I need to work on personally. So once again, card deck, you did me well and you did me dirty. Let me split on you for a second, because last week it was radical acceptance and I hate that card. And now I have to worry about my image and focus on my image and make my value heard. So thanks, deck. I really, really appreciate it. Now, with a DBT skill, hopefully we'll see if it actually lines up together. I'm shuffling now. Not shuffling as well as I can because I don't want to bend the cards. And let's pick one. Hearing. Hearing. Put on soft and soothing music or the sounds of nature. Better yet, go outside and listen to the breeze, the rustling of leaves, and outdoor sounds. Close your eyes and immerse yourself in the experience. So this one is actually a good mindfulness skill, like I said on Monday, where I went and brushed the horses and groomed the horses, and I thought of nothing else but, where's that brush going to go? What's it going to look like on the path? Is the horse reacting the right way? Is this where they want to be brushed right now? What are the lines going to be? How much hair am I going to get off? I just thought about nothing else. But well, besides the nice feel the sun on me and hearing the birds screech overhead, nothing else but that horse. I heard everything. I felt everything, and it kept me present right in that moment and not have my brain or my emotions keep trilling on about things that I don't need to concern myself with, because that's not what I'm here for at my therapy session. My therapy session is to focus on me and my skills. So hearing is a good one. I actually have a page. It's like 5 things you hear, 4 things you see, 3 things you smell, 2 things you can touch, and a thing you can taste, something like that. Because what that does is it makes you more aware of your environment and not focus on your feelings or your thoughts that tend to spiral. And once we spiral, it's hard to pull ourselves out of it. And sometimes we don't want to. Let's be honest. Sometimes we want to spiral because that emotion feels so good, because it's an easy emotion that we know to do. So these are our 2 cards. I have a bunch of books that I have purchased online to kind of help me as I go through different therapists, and, like this new therapist, and now I have 2 weeks. So I got a complex PTSD workbook to help. I have a neurodivergent friendly workbook for DBT skills. I have the DBT Bible here by Marsha Linehan. I love this thing. I have a lot of worksheets from out of here. The internal family systems. So those of us with lots of generational trauma and parents with trauma. And then the workbook for no bad parents, exercises for reflection, processing, and practicing the lessons that were taught upon us. So I think what I'll do is let me look at the complex PTSD book. This is actually interesting. Co-occurring diagnoses for CPTSD. So you can actually have two diagnoses. Borderline personality disorder or other personality disorders, bipolar disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, learning disabilities, anxiety disorders, major depressive disorder or dysphoria, somatization disorders, which are psychological disorders that have physical symptoms, and substance abuse or dependency. Like I keep trying to say, especially if you're someone like me who's watched every episode of Intervention, the war is not on drugs. The war is not on substance use disorders or things like that. The war is actually on the trauma that our parents and their parents and their parents have been passing down on us for years. And instead of allowing that person to express themselves, we tell them to what? Shut up, suck it up. People have it worse than you. You're being sensitive. Like no, we're not. Why do you think there's such a huge issue? You think all of a sudden we just have an issue with drugs and homelessness and drinking? No, it's been going on for years. And instead of attacking the actual source, which is trauma, because heaven forbid we stick our nose in other people's businesses and save somebody, we instead go on these wild rampages about politics is being the reason why we have so many substance use people. Religion is the reason why we have so many substance use disorders. I was going to say something else. It slipped out of my mind once I said religion. Yeah. Anyways, let me continue on. I want to try to find something in here. You know what? Forget it. Let me go to my good old Miss Marsha Linehan. She will definitely have something on your self-worth and your value and looking at yourself. Ooh, chain analysis behaviors. Oh, those are always, it's the trauma game. Chain analysis behavior is basically, this is what you've done, or this is what's happening. Let's work our way backwards and see maybe if we can find out where it started from. Trauma game sucks. And let me say this again and again and again about trauma. We all have trauma. Every single one of us has trauma, and we all experience it our own way. There is no one's trauma that is going to be the ultimate trauma, and no one can surpass that. So nobody else should bitch because this person has the ultimate trauma. No. Yes, there are people who have experienced a lot worse things, and there are people who have experienced a lot less things, but it all depends on when their trauma has happened in the developmental stage of their life. If your trauma happened at 6 years old, your emotional regulation is going to be that of a 6-year-old. If it happened at 14, same thing. Your emotional regulation is going to be of a 14-year-old. Happened at 23, you get the emotional regulation of a 23-year-old, which, you know, is probably just a lot of drinking and abusive behavior with drinking. Oh, is it going to be interpersonal? Ooh, emotional regulation. Maybe next time I'll pull out the cards first and then find the workbook page so we're not just sitting here watching me. Ooh, let's do check the facts. Check the facts, and your self-image is going to lead. Check the facts is me checking myself. This is what I always say when I got to check myself. this is where I learned it from, and it is a godsend. Wait, did I just say that? So I have this worksheet in at least 3 of my workbooks or my own personal binders over there from the years. But checking the facts. This page is lovely. Many emotions and actions are set off by our thoughts and their interpretations of events, not by the events themselves. So we have an event that happens, then we have our thought process, and then from that thought process, our emotional process begins. Also, it can be the event happens, the emotion happens, and then the thought process happens from the emotion, which still isn't the thought process from the event. It's not you responding. So even if you do event thoughts emotions or event emotions thought, you're not responding from the event. You're responding from either your thought train, your thought process, which is healthy or unhealthy, or your emotional process. So to check the facts, especially when we do things like spiral or split, hand in hand. Ask, what is the emotion that I want to change? So for those of us who just go through the basic 6 or 7 emotions, there's a lot more nuanced emotions underneath that. And yes, we can all just say we're angry or we're this, but are we really truly angry, or are we upset? Are we disappointed? There's a little bit more of a nuanced emotion and a feeling that you want to find through this event process. So that way you can actually pinpoint what about the event that made you react in this way. So what is a good way to do is actually stop yourself and go, okay, what's the event that happened from A to B? Let me describe the event as much as I can and observe it through my senses. You know, did I view it openly, or did I view it through my judgment? Did I view it through my black and white thinking? Am I going through it as an absolutes? There are no absolutes here. You know, we cannot speak absolutely because there is so much gray area. We need to ask ourselves, is this my interpretation? Is this my assumption of the event? Are these just my thoughts on this event because of what I've experienced in my past? For me, like religion, you know, certain people will talk to me about it and I kind of shut down because, you know, to me, this God that's kind and loving, created us all and doesn't want us to be in harm, allowed us to have harm come upon us, you know, not once, not twice, but multiple times. Like, it's hard for me to grasp the fact that I split on it, that I can connect these two as an ultimate being that's actually looking out for my best interests. Sometimes our emotions that maybe come out could be the fight or flight response. And so we need to ask, is this event causing me to trigger this fight or flight, my PTSD, my CPTSD? And do I think that this event is an actual threat? And this is why I'm reacting in this way. Is there a catastrophe? Should I be this explosive if there's no catastrophe? Granted, it's hard to think this way while you're in the moment, but this is why we use them as skills. They're in our toolbox and we have to keep using them to get better at them, just like anybody else with the tool needs to do. If you don't practice with that tool, how are you going to know how to use it? So I know it's hard, especially if you have BPD, that our emotions just want to burst out, want to come out. But we can't cope. We can't problem solve. We can't do radical acceptance. We can't do radical acceptance if we feel in our minds and our thought processes that this event is a catastrophe. Now, the last thing is just what I said. Does my emotion and intensity match the event? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I had an incident where we were talking with a neighbor, and the neighbor specifically stated he wanted to vote for Trump. I won't go to much detail because I don't want to make this super political, but that went against my thoughts, my process, my emotions, my values, especially like some of the things that he stands for, like it directly goes against my values and what I see as worth in human beings. And it was very difficult, and I could feel my body tensing because the things he were saying, hi Batman, just didn't seem to make common sense in my head and in my emotions. They may make common sense to other people. For me, it didn't make common sense, and I was getting more angry, more upset the more he kept wanting to back this idea of voting for Trump. And what I would have normally done was told him, all right, cool. If that's how you think, get the fuck off my yard. You're not welcome in my house no more. I can wave hi to you, but I have nothing to fucking say to you. And instead, because the house is my safe space and I have to, unfortunately, put a mask on around my neighbors so that I keep the peace and feel safe in my own home, which really sucks. But there is a certain social politeness you're supposed to have. I don't believe it in many things, but being this is so close to my house, I want to try not to make myself I'm trying to put more on myself than need be, because I definitely can do that, especially with my emotions. So instead, I said, you know what? I believe we disagree here and we have very differing opinions on this. I'm going to go ahead, remove myself from the conversation. And he helped us with something in our house. I said, thank you for helping us with our house. But I'm going to go ahead and remove myself. And then I came into the safety of my house and let my emotions that were building up come out. And so I screamed and I raged and I was yelling questions out like, how could you do this if you believe in human value? Like, just things that the little kid inside of me that was triggered by not being listened to or seeing that human life is worth more than what the value they're putting on it. That person inside of me wanted to rage and scream and throw a fit because you're hurting your fellow people. And that's just something I don't agree with. And so being that as a value of mine was really hard to keep my peace and move on, and what I did is waited for my husband to come home from trying to speak to him, and raged a little bit and yelled, not at him, but at the situation we found ourselves to be in. And then I asked the questions. Is it just me? Am I the one that's overreacting? Am I the one that yada? Yes and no. Yes, you are, because you're passionate, because you have been in these situations. And so it makes it unfathomable in my mind as to why any decent human would go along with this. And then no, because I do have good points in there. And maybe one day when I can manage my emotions more, which is a process, I will be able to stay in that conversation to a point. I'm not going to talk to a wall by any means, but I won't have as heavy as feelings that weigh on me, because it threw off the rest of my day because of that. It took me a few hours to reset myself, and I lost time out of that. And I am done losing time. I am done having my trauma and my pain and my personality disorder cause me to lose valuable time that I could be engaged in another behavior. Sometimes I just have to engage in my bad behavior. It has to get out of my system, out of my body physically, because if not, I feel it sitting on me and then I explode over something silly a few days later. So sometimes that looks like me taking a baseball bat out to the yard and swinging it into the ground, or hitting things, but hitting mats or hitting other balls, like a basketball or something, like something I could just really swing and gets all of that energy that's pulsating in my body out. I wanted to talk about also the feelings of how I feel as someone with BPD. It looks differently for everyone, and everyone can view their feelings differently if they can see their feelings. For me, when I talk about feelings, and I usually talk about them in a color and a texture. So you usually hear me say, especially when I get done after a heavy live, you'll hear me say things like, I'm really gray right now. I'm really hard. I feel like concrete. It's just really heavy. So it makes it hard to penetrate or to connect with the things that are going on in my mind, because everything is kind of just shut off. It's not black. It's not dark. It's not empty. Because to me, like, I have that feeling as well. It's usually of loss, of my childhood, of my parents, of animals, but it's this big hole that'll start and then it gets bigger and bigger. And I could look down and see into this cavern and see like how much light is there to the darkness, to the emptiness. And um, you'll see me grab my chest. You'll see me like, it hurts my heart. And that's because this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm seeing my feelings in my head. There'll be times where it will be like Harold and the Purple Crayon, except it's a green crayon or a blue crayon, and I'm just making scribbles that are in motion and move, or it's a string, it's gooey, and it always has a color, a texture to it, and a weight to it. What does it feel like inside of me? And I think this is something I learned from the youth center on doing our mindfulness walks. I hated mindfulness walks. Like, I like walking out in the woods, but I hated being mindful because I hate trying to internalize my thought process, because my thoughts tend to spiral and go into my trauma. So what I found is that I would listen to nature, and then I would just focus on what was the feeling in my chest. And sometimes you just see me and I'll be sitting down on a log or on the ground with my eyes closed, and I'm not meditating. I'm not doing Zen. What I'm doing is strictly focusing on what am I feeling inside of me, and is there a why to what I'm feeling with? And usually there was in youth center, in inpatient, because you're doing something at that moment to cause this feeling. Um, it's called schema therapy. I really enjoyed schema therapy because I do imagine a lot and see things differently. And so learning that because I couldn't describe my feelings accurately. So learning that in schema therapy, I could describe my feelings how I wanted to. And this is how I saw them. To be like, I was accepted for seeing things differently. So like, I don't know. I really enjoyed schema therapy. It may not be for everyone, just like DBT or CBT or I don't know, haptotherapy, drama therapy, music therapy. We're all going to like something and we're all going to dislike something. So if you have the opportunity to be able to try out different methods of therapy, which include breathing, light, exercise, art, music, nature, yoga, like there's so many different therapy techniques out there. Rocking in a chair is a therapy technique, like self-soothing. There's so much out there that we don't know or fully understand or even have access to. It which is crazy because we teach things like sex education in school, which we barely teach that anymore. Or we teach about diseases, but do we teach about actually caring for ourselves? Do we teach about like what it looks like when you're having an emotional outburst, what it looks like when your feelings aren't being heard or your thoughts aren't being heard, what it looks like to actually take care of yourself in the moment instead of just speaking out these things? Oh, if you feel this, you should do that. No, bring them in class, bring a bunch of yoga balls in class and teach them how to rock on a yoga ball and show them that this is something that anybody can go do and get a $5 yoga ball at Walmart and use it in their room and just rock on it. Why do we have to pay or be in an inpatient center or be at our worst possible moment to have all of these options available to us? Other people would say, oh, well, just research it yourself. How do you know what to research if you don't know what's out there? You need a guide, you need help, you need a community, which is kind of why I do this channel, because it took me a long time to understand, and I'm still trying to understand. I still don't always get it right. This is why I have so many workbooks and things and stuff to help me keep accountable, because I've had these workbooks for months. I haven't opened them because I don't have a reason to. That's just for myself. I have a reason to open them because I'm talking to other people who may hear this, who may see this, who may go, wow, I think I could use that. Again, I don't have value for myself, but I have value for others. And I'm hoping that in speaking and bringing out tips and tricks that I will eventually find the value for myself. Also means like you see me, or hear me, I'm in my home, and mind you, I'm only an hour usually on these lives. I have 9 animals. I don't work. So like 9 animals is my job. Keeping the house up is my job. And even then it's hard for me to do that because of what other outside influences are going on. Um, so the best way for me to hold myself accountable and maybe learn some more about myself is actually by doing this channel. So it is a little self-serving, obviously, because I'm only talking about my trauma and what's going on. Eventually, I would like to speak to other people who have the same diagnosis as me or different diagnoses that go through the same thought patterns as I do, just so that I have other options out there and trying techniques that I've never heard of or learned before, or it's been since 2018 and I haven't, found what the newest therapy trick is yet because I'm not in that type of therapy anymore. I'm just doing my own therapy with finding a CPTSD therapist, finding a DPD therapist, things that I know work for me, being in animal therapy. Those are very specific. So I don't get much variation unless there's something new in that therapy technique. So I appreciate having input from others. I appreciate being able to see different viewpoints, even of my own situation. Sometimes I am too blinded and to not be able to see the own situation that I'm in. I do want to start doing more workbook stuff on my own. And actually, I have a few books I want to start reading, like The Quiet Room and The Toxic Parent, and maybe How to Think Like David Bowie. And so that's something I wanted to probably dig into for Workbook Wednesdays, is have a chapter done each week. And so I can speak on that chapter, how it affects me or how it can affect others, how it's affecting others in my own life. Because as I go through my healing process, I have to expect the others around me that support and love me to also go through a healing process. And seeing what that looks like manifesting in other people close around me who've never tried this before, it's really quite interesting. Really, it is really quite interesting to see how similar our manifestations can be while experiencing very different lives, basically. You think, oh, well, my parents stay together, so it's not that bad. Or, well, at least I didn't live in trailer, so it's not that bad. Or, at least we always had food on our table, so it's not that bad. No, that bare minimum requirement is what your parents were supposed to do. It's the everything else that they did or didn't do, which makes it that bad. So, again, let me say, to be kind to those with a substance use disorder, it doesn't come from their choice. And a lot of people say it's a choice. The choice is to get help. That's the choice. And what that help looks like is not just getting off their substance. It's not. That choice is actually getting therapy for the trauma that made them want to go to that substance. And that's not going to be easily done. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. And you can't expect them to go into a therapy program and to be off the substance at the same time. It's not going to happen. It's going to take time for both of them. And it's okay if you don't feel like you have that time or that capability to be able to help that person for a certain amount of time. We aren't all built to do this by any means. Like, I love animals and I'm not built to foster. I want to keep, and I have kept at least 3 or 4 fosters now that I was just trying to wait to give someone else a home. And then they fit too much. They match in our family too well, and they fit my personality too well, or I fit their personality. However it's happening, I know that if I were to volunteer at a humane society, at a vet tech, at another type of fostering program, that I would be hard pressed if that animal had to go up for euthanasia. If someone came and said, I don't want to take care of this animal, can you just put it down? I'm taking the animal. I'm taking the animal. And I don't know enough people in this area to help me take the animal off my hands. So it ends up being my animal. So we're not all built to help. We're not all built to care. We're not all built to be able to push through and stand besides ourselves and say, this is the options you have to do for this person. We can't. But there are people out there that do. There are programs out there that do. There are halfway homes out there that people who, they're so much better, so much amazing. And you tell them that and they'll say, no, they're not. But to be able to help others when their family and their loved ones can't do for them. And that doesn't mean they gave up on them. It just means that they were not emotionally capable or financially capable, or they've got kids, they've got a small house, whatever the reason may be. There are people out here that do help for these things. So if you feel like it's not something you can do, the easiest thing you can do is maybe research and just find them some options. Because like for me, having so many therapists, because we were military family, having so many therapists in and out, it gets exhausting. And you don't feel like telling your story over again. You don't feel like having to go through the judgment all over again. You don't feel like having to set up these appointments that will take months to get you back to where you were in just talking before learning skills, just for that person to dip out. So I have a few times over the years shut down and not did therapy and not fixed my medications because it was too much work. It didn't put me in a better place though, but I had to be able to find the kindness and the graciousness along with a little poking and prodding from my circle to get back into it, because I'm not going to stay healthy with just a little bit of knowledge and just a little bit of medication. I have to stay healthy with a lot of bit of knowledge and not a lot of bit of medication, but continuous medication. I can't just go off of it. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm okay for now, so I just need it when I'm really, really bad. No, it doesn't work that way for us. Especially if I have personality disorder. A lot of medication doesn't even work. So with all of this being said, as much as we have to learn to be kind to others, we have to be more kind to ourselves. Because if we can't find the kindness and compassion for ourselves, how are we going to find that for others? Which is weird because I actually have that for a lot of people and find very little of it for myself. And when people tell me that I need a break or compassion, I just, right? You just minimalize it. So hopefully this channel will help me, because I can't minimalize it when it's out there. It's there. And, yes, it's my life, but I need to heal from that past. So kindness to yourself. I'm going to make this a short video today. Kindness to others. And remember our skills of hearing for mindfulness. If you ever feel like you're getting overwhelmed, it's the, I think I put the other card up. It's the 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you touch, 1 thing you taste. And that's a different way of your breathing exercises. So if you're someone who doesn't like doing the breathing exercises, or you feel like it doesn't help, this could be another way, another option, another version of that type. With the mindfulness of the hearing, being mindful of splitting, especially on your own image. We are complex. The world is complex. There's a lot of gray area, things that I will have to repeat to myself. So try not to put people in columns. Try not to put events in columns. Try not to put things in columns. Try not to put your thoughts in columns. And if you feel like you're spiraling with your splitting, just acknowledge your thoughts. And then by acknowledging, you can say it out loud. Say, I hear you, thought. I feel you. But at this moment, I cannot entertain you because I need to show kindness to myself. I need to wash the dishes. I need to run an errand. I need to focus in class. Or write it out. So it's something you can reflect on. Because if you don't acknowledge and if you don't reflect on what's bothering you, it's just going to keep bothering you. All you're doing is bearing it down. And I know these are cliche sayings, but it's true. I've experienced it. Others have experienced it. There's a reason why these sayings are out there. Like, it is what it is. I hate that saying, but it is what it is, right? We're on a Wednesday. It's the middle of the week for most, maybe beginning of your week for others, hopefully the end of the week for the remaining. I hope it treats you kind. I hope it treats you well. And if anything, I hope it's at least uneventful going into the weekend. I'm not sure when I'll go on next. I know I have some key things I haven't touched on, especially things with my father. And I know I'm still in middle school on my other chapters. So I think I'm going to listen to my last one I did, or last two, I think, kind of verify where I'm at in my timeline of things and feelings and emotions and traumas, and decide if I want to continue on that and start going through the rest of my 8th grade and high school feelings and emotions and whatnot, or if I just want to maybe start touching on some of the things with my father. But as with this live journal, it is my live journal. I am going to speak when I want to speak on my trauma. And sometimes it feels right. Like yesterday, it felt right. Sometimes it feels like I have to push myself into this, and I don't want to always feel that way. So I will, again, try to post in the group if I think I'm going to do a video the next day. If not, you're just going to see a surprise live, which is okay. Again, if you listen, if you watch, if you find something helpful, I'm here for it. If you find me to be brash and annoying, like, I'm here for it too. I'm sorry that you feel that way. This is me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. I know. I became a Swiftie later in life. I appreciate those that do give the time. I appreciate those that make the effort. I appreciate everyone who just takes a chance on themselves and healing. So have a good weekend and give lots of love to all your little furry ones and your support circle. Don't forget about your support circle because they never forget about you. Bye.